Michael Torino stood in his empty kitchen on Christmas Eve, staring at 3 untouched place settings. The silence was deafening. His 2 adult children, Sarah, 28, and David, 25, wouldn't be coming home. Again. What had once been a house filled with love had become a monument to his failures as a father. The devastating truth hit him. He had lost his children not to death, but to his own neglect. 3 years had passed since David last spoke to him. Sarah managed cold, obligatory phone calls twice a year. "Happy birthday, Dad. Hope you're well. I have to go." If you've ever felt your family falling apart, this story will give you hope. Like this video and subscribe to our channel if you believe in Mary's power to heal families. To create a spiritual chain of prayer for all broken families, write HEAL in the comments below. Let's unite our faith and ask Mary to intercede for every family watching this. Michael was a successful construction company owner who had built everything except what mattered most, a relationship with his children. After his beloved wife, Elena, died of cancer 4 years ago, grief consumed him. Instead of drawing closer to Sarah and David during their shared sorrow, he threw himself into 18-hour workdays. Little did he know that his children interpreted his absence as abandonment during the darkest period of their lives. Sarah had begged him to take time off when their mother was dying. "Dad, she needs you here. We need you here." But Michael, drowning in pain and terrified of watching Elena slip away, chose the familiar comfort of construction sites. He missed Elena's final weeks, arriving at the hospital only after she had passed. David had tried reaching out after the funeral, suggesting grief counseling together. But Michael's response was always, "I'm fine, son. Work keeps me sane. You kids need to move forward." What he meant as strength, they received as rejection. The breaking point came 18 months ago during a family dinner that erupted into shouting. David accused his father of caring more about concrete and steel than his own flesh and blood. Sarah, tears streaming, told Michael he had become a stranger. "Mom always said you were a good man who just didn't know how to show emotions," Sarah whispered. "But now I think you just don't care enough to try." That was the last time the 3 of them were in the same room. Now, as Christmas Eve snow fell, Michael felt crushing isolation. At 55, he had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. His children had moved on, Sarah was engaged to a man Michael had never met, and David was thriving in his career across the country. They had built lives that didn't include him. But as Michael began clearing the place settings, something caught his eye in the dining room hutch. Hidden behind Elena's china was something that would change everything. His late wife's pearl rosary, the one she had clutched during countless nights of prayer for their family's happiness. Michael's trembling hands lifted Elena's rosary from behind the china, transporting him back to 4 years ago, when this same rosary had provided his wife comfort during her cancer battle. What he couldn't understand then was how profoundly his grief would poison the very relationships Elena had died hoping he would protect. The breakdown hadn't happened overnight. It began during Elena's chemotherapy treatments, when Michael convinced himself that working double shifts would pay for the best care. "I'm doing this for her," he would tell himself, even as Elena grew weaker and more frightened, reaching for a husband who was never there. Sarah had taken leave from teaching to care for their mother, while David drove 4 hours every weekend to help. But Michael hid behind spreadsheets and concrete mixers. The first real crack came when Elena asked Michael to attend just 1 chemotherapy session. "Please, mi amor," she whispered, using the Spanish endearment from their early marriage. "I need you to see what I'm fighting for us." But Michael had a critical meeting with investors. He promised he'd go to the next one. There never was a next one. Elena's condition deteriorated rapidly after that treatment. You see, what Michael didn't realize was that his children weren't just watching their mother die, they were watching their father disappear. After the funeral, Michael's reconciliation attempts felt hollow. He would call with forced cheerfulness, asking about work, while avoiding any mention of their shared loss. When Sarah tried to talk about missing their mother, Michael would quickly change the subject. She wouldn't want us dwelling on sadness, he'd say, not understanding that his children needed to grieve together. The failed dinners were particularly painful. Michael would invite them to expensive restaurants, sitting stiffly while Sarah and David exchanged uncomfortable glances. He would talk about expansion plans, filling silence with anything except the words they desperately needed. "I'm sorry. I miss her too. I was wrong." David had tried the direct approach before their final argument. "Dad, we need to talk about Mom. We need to talk about how you weren't there." But Michael bristled, his defenses rising. "I was providing for this family. I was doing what I thought was best." "Providing?" Sarah's voice cracked with suppressed pain. "Dad, we needed you, not your money. Mum needed you to hold her hand during chemo, not write another check." That night, David spoke the words that shattered what remained. "You know what, Dad? Mom spent her last months asking us not to blame you, telling us you loved us in your own way. But I think she was wrong. I think you only know how to love your work." Now, 3 years later, Michael sat alone with Eleanor's rosary, finally understanding the magnitude of his failures. His children had needed a father during the most traumatic experience of their lives. And instead, they got a stranger who threw money at their pain while hiding from his own. The devastating realization hit him. Tomorrow would be Christmas, and his children would spend it celebrating with people who actually showed up for them. He had become nothing more than a cautionary tale, the father who chose grief over love, work over family, pride over healing. Michael pressed the rosary to his chest and felt the weight of absolute desperation crushing him. He was about to lose his children forever, and this time there would be no second chances. With Elena's pearl rosary trembling in his weathered hands, Michael sank to his knees in the living room where his family had once exchanged Christmas gifts with such joy. The weight of his failures pressed down on him like a crushing mountain, and for the first time in 4 years, this proud, stubborn man finally surrendered his pride. "Blessed Virgin Mary," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. "I don't know how to pray like Elena did. I don't have her faith, her beautiful words." Tears he had suppressed for years began falling onto the delicate pearls. "But I'm begging you, please help me. I've destroyed everything she loved most, our family." Michael had never been the religious one. That was Elena's domain. She would kneel before their bedroom shrine to Our Lady of Guadalupe every morning and night, fingering this same rosary while whispering prayers in Spanish and English. He used to tease her gently about talking to statues, never understanding the depth of her devotion. Now desperate and broken, he finally grasped why Eleanor had clung so tightly to her faith. "Mary, Eleanor used to say you were the mother of all mothers, that you understood a parent's heart better than anyone." His voice grew stronger, more urgent. "My children hate me, and they have every right to. I chose my grief over their needs. I chose my work over their healing. I failed them when they needed me most." He held Elena's rosary to his lips, remembering how many times he had seen his wife do the same gesture during their children's illnesses, school troubles, and heartbreaks. "Elena always said you could heal any broken family, that no heart was too hardened for your love. Please, Mother Mary, prove her right. I can't lose Sarah and David forever. They're all I have left of her." What Michael didn't know was that at that exact moment, 250 miles away, something extraordinary was beginning to unfold. Sarah Martinez, she had kept her married name after her engagement ended unexpectedly 6 months ago, though she had never told her father about the breakup, was sitting in her small apartment, staring at a Christmas card she had written but never sent. The card was addressed to her father, containing words of forgiveness she had written in a moment of Christmas spirit but lacked the courage to mail. Just as Michael whispered "Amen" to his desperate prayer, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from her landlord. "Burst pipe in your building, emergency evacuation tonight. So sorry this happened on Christmas Eve." Sarah stared at the message in disbelief. Where could she possibly go on Christmas Eve? Her friends were all with their families. Hotels would be booked solid. and she had stubbornly refused to make backup plans, insisting she wanted to spend Christmas alone. Little did she know that this seeming disaster was the first gentle touch of Mary's maternal hand, orchestrating what would become the most miraculous Christmas Eve of their lives. But Mary's intervention was just beginning. The signs she would send next would leave no doubt that the mother of all families had heard a desperate father's plea. As Sarah stood in her apartment hallway, clutching the unsent Christmas card to her father, her phone rang with an unknown number. "Is this Sarah Torino?" asked an elderly woman's voice. "I'm Mrs. Rodriguez from St. Catherine's Parish. Your mother Elena used to pray with Our Ladies of Guadalupe prayer group. She always said if her children ever needed help, we should reach out. We have families opening their homes tonight for displaced residents." Sarah's breath caught. Her mother had died 4 years ago, yet this stranger was calling. "How did you get my number?" Mary's intervention was just beginning. If you want to see more amazing family miracles, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. What Sarah didn't know was that Mrs. Rodriguez had been praying her rosary when she felt an overwhelming urge to call Elena's old contact list. The number belonged to Elena's landline, which Michael had kept active and forwarded to Sarah's phone years ago. Meanwhile, across town, David was pacing his hotel room. His flight to Denver was cancelled due to sudden severe weather that meteorologists couldn't explain. Every airline was grounded until morning. He had planned to spend Christmas alone, avoiding all family emotions, but now he was trapped in his father's city on Christmas Eve. When David called to rebook his flight, the airline offered complimentary accommodations for stranded passengers. The address was 6 blocks from his childhood home, but Mary's gentle orchestrations met fierce resistance. Sarah angrily rejected Mrs. Rodriguez's offer. "I'm not taking charity from people who knew my mother, and I'm certainly not going anywhere near my father's house." She hung up, determined to sleep in her car. David was equally stubborn. When his taxi driver, an older Hispanic man wearing a St. Christopher medal, suggested visiting family while stuck in town, David's response was ice cold. "I don't have family here anymore." "On Christmas Eve, everyone has family somewhere," the driver said softly. "Sometimes we just forget where to find them." "Trust me, some families are better left forgotten," David replied angrily. But Mary wasn't finished. As Sarah sat in her freezing car, her phone buzzed. "Emergency shelter at St. Catherine's Parish, 412 Oak Street. Elena's friends want to help her daughter, Mrs. Rodriguez." The address was 3 blocks from her father's house. Sarah stared at the message, tears burning her eyes. Every road led back to the man who had abandoned them. At the same time, David discovered his hotel had overbooked. The only available room was at a bed and breakfast on Oak Street, the same street where his father lived. Just when it seemed Mary might bring them together through impossible coincidences, the worst obstacle emerged. David, realizing how close he was to his childhood home, called Sarah in a rage. "This is insane!" he shouted. "We're both being manipulated into going back there. I don't know what sick game this is, but I'm getting out of this city tonight, even if I have to walk to the airport." Yeah, but Mary's most powerful intervention was yet to come, and it would either heal this family forever or shatter it completely. As David angrily ended his call with Sarah and stormed through the snowy streets toward the airport on foot, something stopped him dead in his tracks. There, glowing softly in the window of St. Catherine's Parish, was a sight that made his breath catch in his throat. A statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe, identical to the one his mother had prayed before every single day of his childhood. But this wasn't just any statue. As David drew closer, he could see fresh roses at Mary's feet, roses that looked exactly like the ones his mother had always placed there, the same deep red variety she had grown in their backyard garden. Elena had died in December, And David knew those particular roses didn't bloom in winter. At that exact moment, 3 blocks away, Sarah was experiencing her own impossible encounter. As she sat shivering in her car, refusing to go to the shelter, an elderly Hispanic woman tapped gently on her window. It was Mrs. Rodriguez herself, holding a steaming cup of coffee and wearing a coat that looked remarkably like one Elena used to own. "Mija," Mrs. Rodriguez said softly, using the same Spanish endearment Elena had always used for Sarah. "Your mama asked me to watch over you. She said you would be stubborn, just like your papa." Sarah's hands trembled as she rolled down the window. How did you know I was here?" "Sometimes Our Lady shows us where we need to be." Mrs. Rodriguez smiled, her eyes twinkling with mysterious warmth. "Your mama used to say that Mary never abandons the children she loves, even when they try to abandon themselves." Meanwhile, David found himself pushing open the heavy wooden doors of St. Catherine's, drawn by a force he couldn't understand. The church was empty, except for one figure kneeling before the altar, a man whose shoulders were shaking with sobs. Even from behind, David recognized his father immediately. Michael was clutching Elena's rosary, whispering desperate prayers in broken Spanish, the same prayers he had heard his wife say 1,000 times but had never bothered to learn. "Santa Maria, Madre de Dios." His father's voice cracked with emotion. "Please don't let me lose them forever. Please help me fix what I broke." David's anger began to crack like ice in spring sunshine. He had never seen his father cry. He had never heard him speak Spanish. He had never witnessed this depth of raw vulnerability and regret. What happened next would later be impossible to explain. As David stood frozen in the doorway, his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "David, I'm going to the church. Something is happening that I can't explain. I think Mom is trying to tell us something." At that exact moment, Michael looked up and saw David's reflection in the stained glass window behind the altar. Their eyes met for the first time in 3 years, and both father and son felt something shift in the spiritual atmosphere around them. But the most miraculous moment was yet to come, because Mary had orchestrated something that would leave no doubt about her power to heal the deepest wounds in any family. As father and son stared at each other across the sacred space, neither could find words. The silence stretched between them, heavy with 3 years of pain and misunderstanding. But then something extraordinary happened, something that would later convince both men that Mary herself had taken control of this moment. Sarah burst through the church doors, tears streaming down her face, clutching something in her trembling hands. "Dad! David!" she called out, her voice echoing through the sacred space. "You have to see this. You have to see what Mrs. Rodriguez gave me." In her hands was a letter, yellowed with age, written in Eleanor's careful handwriting, dated just 1 week before her death. Mrs. Rodriguez had kept it all these years, waiting for the right moment to deliver Elena's final message to her family. Michael's hands shook as Sarah placed the letter in his palms. With David standing beside them both, he read aloud Elena's words through tears. "My darling family, if you are reading this together, then Our Lady has answered my prayers. I know my death will break all of you in different ways. Michael, mi amor, you will hide in your work because watching me die will terrify you, but our children will need you more than ever. They will think you don't care, but I know your heart. You love so deeply you're afraid to feel it." David's breath caught as his father's voice cracked, reading their mother's words. "Sarah and David, my precious ones, your papa will make mistakes because grief makes good men do foolish things. But he is the same man who built tree houses for you, who taught you to drive, who cried when you graduated. Forgive him, as I know he will learn to forgive himself. And remember, no matter what happens, you are siblings, you are blood, you are family." The final paragraph brought all 3 to their knees. "I have asked Our Lady of Guadalupe to watch over you when I cannot. She knows what it means to lose a child, and she knows what it means to love unconditionally. When you feel lost, pray together. When you feel broken, hold each other. And when you find this letter, know that Mary has brought you back together because families are meant to heal, not break. What happened next was pure miracle. Michael looked at his children, really looked at them, for the first time since Elena's funeral. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking completely. "I failed you both when you needed me most. I was so scared of losing her that I lost you instead." David, his own walls finally crumbling, stepped forward and embraced his father. "Dad, I thought you didn't care. I thought we didn't matter anymore." "You matter more than life itself," Michael sobbed. "Both of you. I just didn't know how to live without her and still be the father you needed." Sarah joined their embrace, and for the first time in 4 years, the Torino family was complete again. As they held each other, crying tears of release and relief, the winter roses at Mary's feet seemed to glow even brighter in the candlelight. Mrs. Rodriguez, who had quietly entered the church, smiled from the back pew. She had waited 4 years to deliver Elena's letter, but Mary had shown her the perfect moment. The mother of all families had orchestrated every detail: the burst pipe, the cancelled flight, the forwarded phone line, to bring these broken hearts back together. Outside, the impossible snowstorm that had grounded David's flight was already beginning to clear. 6 months later, the Torino family gathered around the same dining room table where their final devastating argument had taken place. But everything was different now. The table that had once been a battlefield of harsh words was now filled with laughter, shared memories, and genuine forgiveness. Michael had undergone the most profound transformation. The workaholic who had once hidden behind 18-hour days now made family his absolute priority. He closed his construction office every Sunday for Torino Family Day, a tradition sacred to all 3 of them. More importantly, he had learned to express the emotions he had buried for so long. "Dad actually cries during movies now," Sarah would tease him gently. "Last week," he sobbed through Coco. But these were healing tears that washed away years of suppressed grief and opened his heart to love. David had moved back to his father's city, taking a job that paid less but kept him close to family. The angry young man, who had sworn never to forgive, discovered that forgiveness wasn't just a gift to his father. It was freedom for himself. "I spent 3 years carrying Mom's death and Dad's mistakes like stones in my chest," he would tell friends. "Mary showed me how to put them down." Sarah had found healing in becoming the family's emotional anchor. Her engagement had ended not because of family drama, but because she realized she wanted a partner who understood the importance of family reconciliation. Perhaps the most miraculous transformation was how they handled Elena's memory. Instead of her death being a source of division, it became their strongest bond. They visited her grave together on the 15th of every month, bringing red roses that somehow continued to bloom in Michael's garden year-round. Roses that defied nature but embodied Mary's supernatural love for families. What this incredible story teaches us is that the Virgin Mary specializes in the impossible, healing relationships that seem permanently broken. While other saints might intercede for physical ailments, Mary understands the deepest wound any human can experience, the loss of family love. She is the mother who never abandons her children, no matter how far they've wandered. If you're watching this with tears because your own family is broken, take hope. Mary sees your pain. She knows the specific hurt in your heart, whether it's an estranged parent, a rebellious child, a sibling you haven't spoken to in years, or a marriage hanging by a thread. The same Virgin who orchestrated Michael's impossible Christmas miracle is ready to work in your family too. The key is surrendering your pride and praying with desperate honesty like Michael did. Mary doesn't need perfect prayers or eloquent words. She needs broken hearts ready to heal and stubborn souls willing to forgive. The Torino family miracle didn't happen because they deserved it. It happened because Mary specializes in giving families exactly what they need most, a second chance at love. Have you experienced Mary's healing in your family? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more miraculous family healing stories.